as some of you know, or remember everybody's name, as some of you might recall. I also put business cards over there with my cell phone and my email address. And there's an agenda. If you didn't get one, it's on the table. It's just a single page. That being said, I'll introduce folks as they come up to speak. I want to thank everybody for being here. Usually we have a few more folks than this, but that's okay. I'm going to blame it on the mayor. When he's not here, apparently we draw more. What can I tell you? All right, that being said, we'll try and follow our agenda closely. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Honorable Fofo Gillich, the only Fofo I'm aware of in the world.
I don't know about that honorable stuff.
And, well, honorable depending on who you talk to. But there are a couple of topics here I'd like him to cover. I noticed Mr. Leonard is not here tonight. He's a chief administrative officer. He had some heavy surgery, serious surgery, but he's back. He's fine. He's working partial days, but he'll be back in the swing of things shortly. All yours, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Dr. Tisdale, appreciate that. And Mike is back full time, so he's in the swing. But yeah, he usually covers for me today. But you know, it's good to be here. And I think this is the first point. We used to meet upstairs, right?
We did.
Yeah. So anyway, you know, I think a few topics on your agenda. Talking about Pops Ferry extension. That's the highest thing on our priority, and we position ourselves to try to capture as much support as far as funding. But what we're talking about is the extension of Pops Ferry across Pass Road, across the railroad tracks to the west side of the Coliseum. You know, 4-lane at most of all, and you know, it has tremendous potential. We've got a lot of support from the Gulf Regional Planning Commission. But we've been going after for about 4 years what was called a bill grant, or raise grant. You know, it's a federal money that we compete with a lot of people, especially in the 5th Congressional District. But bottom line is, we positioned, you know, the council approved the sale of about $14 million in bonds, and we'll talk about that, and I'm sure that'll be talked about, but 7 of that was, you know, should we not get the support to do the $13 million project, we were going to be positioned to do it, and we're still positioned, but we've accomplished, you know, about 6 million of that 13, you know, coming from other sources besides our, you know, our bond. So that will happen quicker, a lot sooner. We hope to break ground. We're in the final 2 or 3 acquisitions of the property right away, which positions us, you know, to move it forward. So it is, you know, designed, ready to bid, and we hope that will be accomplished, at least break ground, in the start of 23, first quarter 23. Y'all stop me if you have any questions as I ramble through all of this stuff. But that is a big deal. That's going to allow, you know, traffic to move more gracefully, and it will go, you know, again to the west of the Coliseum, offloading a little bit of the pressure east-west as well as the Boulevard Road. Looks like you had a question.
You know, I'll perfectly, you know, champion everything that's been going on. It's excellent what you're doing there. Regarding the bridge, I understand that, you know, you have environmental impact money committed already for that. What money, you know, I don't know if you did any property acquisitions in the Sunkist area.
No.
Okay. For the life of me, I have a hard time compartmentalizing all this. Why can't we build that bridge where it was intended to be built at in the 70s when they built the interstate in Rodenburg? I mean, that's a narrow square May right there, east of the Kennedy's property, going to the COA. Right. You got a brand new middle school right there. You got a brand new, well, it's an older high school now. I mean, and you don't have to cross Chicka Bluff Road.
Yeah.
I mean, and a bar, I was brought up right by Pops Ferry Bridge, and I currently live right by Pops Ferry Bridge. Mm-hmm. And I told Paul here recently, when that bridge was shut down, 1 lane that is, here recently, it created an unreal gridlock compared to cruising the coast and spring break.
It's a serious problem, regional problem.
It was built in 1975. Yeah. It's older than Pops Ferry Bridge. Yeah. And you're a barge, you're an incident away from that thing collapsing or whatever. I'm just saying, the redundancy is the key. I mean, I know that there's been some money committed for it. Environmental impact money is what I know, but don't get me wrong, I'm all for this project right here, but we need another bridge across the bay.
Well, there's no question about that.
I understand the draw
But there's more work to do even on that, the repair. Instead of being a $180 million project, we can actually, we see a source to make sure that the bridge never gets stuck again by rehabbing that bridge.
I understand what happened there, what we about to bed when the tugboat.
Well, it's a serious, nobody in the right mind will, like I said, everybody knows that we need another north-south corridor, for defense access roads, for evacuation.
The house, Bay Ridge housing right there is at a military housing is at a surplus. They're putting people from civil service in there, private sector, whatever,
Well,
in that housing, Bay Ridge housing. I'm sure that the government would, deal with the right of way. I know at one time there was an issue with the gentleman who lived on the other side of Bay Ridge housing. That was all back in the 80s when I went to these meetings.
right. Well, that's still ongoing. That's the pressure. Back when, in 2015, we identified what was called the Biloxi Beach Corridor.
Clean up Rosenberg Avenue at the same time.
Yeah. Well, even back when this first started, there was a version A. And, H was the last one. So, and I think MDOT has some frustration with the city of Biloxi and some of the things.
The general at the time didn't want to.
Well, this is MDOT that really got frustrated with us. I mean, we're trying to, push it forward every kind of way we could. Again, when 2015, we identified possibly $255 million that would take Interstate 10, Shriners Boulevard, 67, straight down, Interstate 10, cross Interstate 10, 2 new bridges, a causeway and a bridge, a high-rise bridge. At the time, in 2015, the total project was $255 million, $75 million for each bridge. The other day, when we explored the toll, which made everybody concerned, but $180 million, probably $200 million right now. It's sort of a bridge too far, as far as what's in the realm. I'm frustrated. Everyone's frustrated. That, first of all, that is not a state road. It doesn't connect to another major highway. This extension will make it make the possibility to get that designated a state road.
Just looking at putting another bridge, in the long term across Tudor Bluff River and all that fragile wetland. I'm just saying all the obstacles.
Well, that's the highest thing on the radar. Like I said, is the extension of. Yeah, well, that's out there, but it's still worth looking at. But as I mentioned, this extension is #1 priority for us. We're going to make that happen sooner than later. So the frustration you have going east-west, and that will hopefully. Yeah, no.
Redundancy is what I'm looking for. I've seen that bridge go out numerous times.
Yeah.
I live right by it, getting around is important.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And the same thing happened on I-10. Everybody came on this side of town.
Well, it's unbelievable how much money, soft cost, permit cost, how much time and money it takes to address these major projects. We've not been successful. Again, the position we will be in, when we connect the Pops Ferry to Highway 90, it can be designated a state road. So that's fine. You got a question?
Just on this thing, since the coal barges are gone, why is it a priority now on any level to replace that bridge?
Well,
I know there have been problems out there. You just spent a lot of money fixing it, supposedly it's fixed.
well, we got about $15 million before we say it's fixed. So
But still,
that's on the radar too. But
why do we need to spend the money to put it in a
well, just the traffic, and there's some traffic congestion, primarily in the morning and in the afternoons. Like I said, we can try to focus on what we can do the most, the fastest right here.
I think this down here is a great idea.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. But I really question the cost of a new bridge. I mean, that's just my opinion.
No, it's out there, no question about that. Okay, yes.
Going back to the extension, I've never seen a picture. It goes from Walgreens back, but how does it go around the new parking lot?
It's going to go through the parking lot. There'll be some connections. Yeah, right, to the west. But there's some money contention there between us and the Coliseum about what they have requested, and we're going to ask everyone to kind of step up you know, you've requested some things that would, you know, make it more effective. But again, that's, they will split those two parking lots in half, but there's an underpass that's on design. Part of that, you know, the $13 million that's needed. So bottom line, we've got 7 in our pocket, and we got 6 or so, you know, designated. We hope we get 2 or 3 more, but we're going to move on it. It's a few properties away from being totally right-of-way purchased, and then we're going to go to bid. So that's the extension. I hope everyone understands what we're trying to do. But that's immediate, and that's our top priority. That was, you know, before the council, we wanted to be sure we had the ammunition ready to make that thing happen. Okay? Hill Park is the next thing. I think you can see the sheet piles and everything on the extension of the boat ramp. That's in process right now, and we're going to do some more work to the parking lot as well as the ramps and the finger piers there. Coon Street, same thing. We've got the ability to add a couple of more. Right now, you've got 2 finger piers, and being able to maybe put 2 boats in the water at one time. We're going to triple that, so we'll have 6 piers, and you know, maybe put 6 boats in the water at one time, and some improvements down there. You know, it's being I guess a lot of clearing going on right now as a result of the completion of the boardwalk between Oak Street and the small craft harbor. They're about, you know, about 20 or 30 feet more of the knee wall, the 18-inch knee wall, to be completed there. But that's coming along. And the West Biloxi boat launch is what I think the county's taking the main role there, but that's right across from the Waffle House, that parking lot. City has some of the property. Most of the financing in this part of the boat ramp will be from the county. I think it's about $700,000, I think. Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but that's not on our nickel. That's on there. Well, it's all on our nickel since we're part of Harrison County, but a lot of the funding has been identified through their efforts. And I guess anything else as far as the construction? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Anyway, thank you, and risk of being redundant, but back to the Poxbury Road extension, and you're speaking of the area in which, at the intersection from Pass Road down to 90, yeah, that's where you're going to be extending out. Are they going to keep it as like a divided road so that you can have?
There will be some dividing, right, yeah.
And now, there's a
As it crosses highway, as it crosses the railroad tracks, it'll come down. It's not, but there'll be, you know, there's some possible development on both sides of that area from, you know, south of Pass Road to the railroad tracks. And we've identified through, you know, some of the property owners who wish to develop, you know, some more business along that route, just in between Pass Road and the railroad tracks.
So basically, they diverted away from that farming.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, it really is good for traffic, and, you know, and that's why Gulf Regional has, you know, jumped a few $1 million in support of the situation. Again, couple that with the ability of the east-west corridor, which was, you know, a $400 million project, you know, but it's not, you know, it would actually tie, you know, from Veterans, north-south, and the railroad tracks to the boulevard to that road. Right, and then all the way to DeBees, we hope. You know. But that's a long haul, big number, financed through not all our sources. Yeah. So, anyway, and then a couple other things. You know, of course, you know, it's a sort of a good sign to know that these projects, like the Broadwater, that's $1 billion, $1.3 billion, and it's not dead. You know, I wish I could tell you, you know, more news, but it's still. They're still pursuing that. There's a big opportunity. That's why the extension, I think, will be high on the radar. Should that, you know, get the $1 billion is a lot of money, and that's why I think they're in the process of that. And I think about 1,700 hotel rooms, or maybe 1,500 hotel rooms last time, I think. The Broadwater project.
Is the recent deal with the Thailand and the Secretary of State keep that project in? I know it is on the other end, you know, they're dealing with lower cost right now.
Well, you know, I think there was some tidelands for dredging, you know, that was dedicated to dredging of the marina, not so much the you know, the other financing. Again, we've committed with some incentives, tax incentives, to put about $78 million up. This is the Broadwater project we're talking about now. It's a 260-something acres on both sides of the railroad tracks, but you know, the bulk of it would be infrastructure tying those properties together with water and sewer and other hard infrastructure kinds of things. But that's still, you know, I can't tell you more, other than it's not dead. And same thing with Tivoli. Tivoli is about a $700 million project between the yacht club, where the yacht club is, and Holly Street. Those projects are not dead. You know, I wish I could give you more information, but those are big numbers. If you add both of them together, it's about $2 billion worth of development that would be right there on Highway 90, with another couple of thousand hotel rooms, maybe a little bit more than that. So.
Tax increases, property tax increase? No
property tax increase. You know, as in water has been bumped a little bit by about a normal. I think it's all built on how many thousands of gallons you use a month. You know, for a user that uses 3,000 to 5,000 gallons a month, which is, you know, pretty in the middle of the road. And this was a 4-year plan that was passed a while back, that it will be bumping from $1.58 per thousand gallons to $1.61 per thousand gallons. And then also computed with the water usage will be the utility, the sewer part of the deal, and that's a function of how many gallons, how many thousands of gallons, and it may be about 5 cents more per thousand gallons. It's not a real significant increase, but part of the utility authority is responsible for, you know, debris collection as well as garbage collection. That has been, you know, that's passed through to the user, you know, the citizens, and that's probably about $1. It'd be $17 a month on your garbage, and it went up from about $1.58 to $17. Again, that's a function of the utility authority contract with, and that's bid, and it'll be coming up a bit again, but that's part of the CPI. There's about a 9% CPI that made that dollar or so go up on your garbage bill. Yes, sir.
Will that increase take place?
I think January 1. No, I take that back, because they're on the same fiscal year as us, October 1. But yeah.
Is there any in the near future to smooth out Pass Road? I mean, Pass Road is a bumpy nightmare.
Yeah, well,
I mean, manhole covers that are in, every one of them like in the middle of a driving lane, and it's just,
well, you know,
a short drive on Pass Road.
we've looked at Councilman Tisdale now done road pass roads as well as a number of neighborhoods to figure out where the bang for the buck is. To answer your question, not on, you know, I'm not aware of anything, but that's a good Gulf Regional Planning Commission East-West kind of thing to bring up, because it does need to be, you know, this is. Yeah, no, good. It's East-West corridor all the way to, you know, other side of Gulfport, and it needs to be done. But again, you know, I don't know if as far as just paving, we've overcome, well, we haven't overcome it yet, but, you know, back our vendors that have bid on projects where asphalt was involved, they were bidding projects a couple of years ago at a rate that, you know, to give you, for instance, I think asphalt, liquid asphalt was, their cost was like $400 a liquid ton. Their cost jumped to about $800 a liquid ton. We couldn't get them, you know, to finish anything. I think that's been toned down a little bit, but we did use some of the language, the escalation language that MDOT had used, that either would go up or down related to, you know, sort of a CPI, but a monthly or quarterly adjustment to those prices. Yeah. So, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, have they ever considered using rubberized asphalt? It has a 20 to 25-year lifespan, and it's actually great for the road, and it deters noise, and it holds up very well, and it should hold up very well here.
Well, I can't answer that question, but we need to look at every opportunity to extend what we do, So, garbage, as I mentioned, it's going to jump about $1 a month for you there. Dr. T, have I forgotten anything that I need to mention?
Not that I can think of. Last opportunity. Talk. You want to throw anything at the mayor? I told him we don't serve beer anymore, so you can't throw empty cans at him like they do in the honky tonks.
Well, I can't bob and weave like I used to.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Call us anytime. He's a good guy.
Thank you very much.
All these people are very diligent, and I think will answer your questions that you may have regarding whatever they do in the future. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Jerry Creel is the Director of Community Development, and there are 3 things on your agenda. As you can see, I stuck the Gulf Coast Community, the College Road, just because I know the folks at this end of town are particularly interested in that if there are any updates. And Jerry, there may be a thing or two you might want to add to what's here. It's up to you. Thank you.
If it's all right with you, I'm going to save short-term rental to the end because that tends to generate some questions. Okay, the Community College Road, the new entrance that's been proposed. Okay, the Community College, the new entrance that's been proposed coming off of Pass Road. Can you hear me now? Okay. I called Dr. Bradley this week with Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College to see if we could get an update on that. He's actually away at a conference, won't be back until next week. But to give you some kind of an answer, we have not received anything. We don't have plans, we don't have an application or anything. And of course, the plan would start with our department. So once we get something, Dr. Bradley had said at a previous meeting that when they do get to that point, they'd be happy to have a neighborhood meeting with the neighbors that are concerned to listen to their concerns about it. But as of right now, we don't have any update to report on that. So as soon as I hear something, I'll let Dr. Tisdale know and he can announce it in the e-blast. Any luck with grocery stores, restaurant chains coming to Biloxi? Well, we're negotiating for these type of entities all the time. One of the things is that when you're dealing with developers, they're very guarded about when they want to make the announcement about what things are coming, so we have to maintain that confidentiality with them. I can tell you that we are working on some grocery stores. We are working on some restaurants. We're working on a number of other things. The things that I can release to you, I can tell you about some of them that are in Ward 5. We just received the plans. 2 years ago, we had a plan for a trampoline park at the mall, and then COVID hit and they kind of backed off of it. Well, now that COVID has kind of taken a sidestep, they've come back in with the plans. We're reviewing those right now. It'll go into that area on the west side of the mall where they created the new angular entrance there. And that's something else that we need to help keep our mall viable. They have like a 95% occupancy rate there. And between some of the things, the movie theater and some other things that they put in there, they're really starting to draw young people back to the mall again. And they're also, we're always talking to them about creating more out parcels around the mall, to help build more restaurants around there. Also, Edgewater Square, the shopping center down at this end of Pass Road at Eisenhower, and the shopping center that is at the corner of Pops Ferry and Pass Road over on the east side are both owned by the same developer now. And they're very creative. They're looking at a number of things that they're going to do in those shopping centers. There were concerns about Hobby Lobby leaving. They believe that they already have tenants lined up to fill the Hobby Lobby building, and they'll announce that when they get ready. They also have a tenant for the former Joann Fabrics store that's up on the front. And this is one of those cases where they want to make the announcement. We'll certainly let them do that when they get ready. But good things happening with our existing shopping centers here. As far as restaurants go, we have the Slim Chickens restaurant. that's just about finished at the corner of Pops Ferry and Cedar Lake Road. I look for them to open probably in the next couple of weeks there. The Rizzuto's is still in the works. You know, that's the group from New Orleans that bought the old Redding House downtown. And they want to put an Italian restaurant there. We're basically waiting on them to provide us with plans for that project. Phillip with Billups, which is located there at the foot of Kivett Street, you know, their plan was to move Phillip with Billups up into that new building that they built next to Josette's. Josette's has just been renovated for residential apartments, and we still believe that's the plan. You know, originally they were going to have another restaurant that would be moving into the existing Phillip with Billups location. They had requested approval to move a medical cannabis dispensary into that building. That went to the council last night, and the council just didn't think that that was the appropriate location for a medical cannabis facility. The vision is that everything from I-110, you know, going down to the point on Highway 90 certainly needs to be tourism related. And so that got turned down last night at the council meeting. So my guess would be is that they'll come back to us with a restaurant to go in that location. Apartments and houses, we've got those going in everywhere or being planned for everywhere. You probably know about the Arbor Landing apartment project, which is next to Walmart Neighborhood Market on Pops Ferry Road. We have another developer that's looking at several locations. He owns several properties in town and is looking for apartments there. And single-family residential just continues to move forward. We've got single-family subdivisions coming in. The City Council approved a 66-lot subdivision last night at the corner of Brazier Road and Camp Wilkes Road. And it seems like every couple of meetings we have another subdivision coming in with at least 50, 60 or more single-family lots on it. Now, what's the importance of having single-family come into your town? Well, it's the rooftops that generate the commercial draw to the city of Biloxi. I mean, the first thing they do is look to see if there are enough rooftops there to support whatever commercial operation it is that they're trying to bring to town. So I was concerned when interest rates bumped up just a little bit that it might slow development down in Biloxi. It hasn't done that. Matter of fact, it's actually had kind of the opposite effect. And I was talking with a couple of bankers about this, and they said that what happens is whenever interest rates remain low or remain the same for a long period of time, there's no real sense of urgency with developers to get something done in a very quick period of time. But whenever they see a little bump in the interest rate, that creates a sense of urgency that we need to get this project done now before they go up again. So I believe that that's what happened. We've had a number of projects that have come in recently. You're familiar already that the Bark building downtown, we've issued a permit on the big Bark building there at the corner of Raynor and Howard Avenue. And they're in there framing up walls now, you know, to turn the upstairs into apartments, and it's going to be commercial on the bottom floor. We also have the Bella, which is the old Wells Fargo location next door, and they're putting condominiums in that. So a lot of interest in downtown as well as the other areas in the city. We've essentially got development going on in every part of the city. I mean, everywhere you turn, there's something going on. Sir, did you have a question?
Is there anything that's been talked about behind both you and Walmart?
If you're talking about the Funtime USA, okay. Well, you know, the Funtime USA people own that property. And for a while, they were going to bring the amusement park back in and put it back in there. I haven't heard anything about that in a long period of time. So as of right now, no, sir. We don't have anything proposed for that property. They do own it, yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. We're working on that. We're working on that. I just can't announce it right now. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to know all these, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, that vacant building that's been sitting there next to Planet Fitness over there on Fox Ferry and House Road,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's been just sitting there. I mean, could they possibly put like a wind dizzy or something maybe in that
we're working with that developer, and he has plans for all the tenant spaces in there. He's actually even talking about creating some out parcels out along Pass Road, you know, that would create even more tenants for that property. So we are working with them on that.
Not to reveal anything, but is it going to be more of an upscale grocery store or kind of like what we used to? Are we looking at more like
Actually, a lot of people were very upset that Winn-Dixie left. They thought it was a really clean store and was well maintained.
It wasn't like Publix.
Okay.
I imagine better with Publix and there it is.
Okay. I don't want to get in trouble over this, so I can tell you that anything we recruit, we're going to try to recruit top of the line. Yes, sir.
Are we looking at like a lower-level store or?
No, I don't think that with these guys buying that shopping center, I don't think they're out recruiting lower level tenants to come in there. They've got a note to pay on that building. Yeah, so I don't think that they would be recruiting any low level tenants in there. So, short-term rental. Short-term rental seems to come up at every city council meeting because to be honest, it's very popular right now. People see dollar signs and they're wanting to turn their properties into short-term rental because they get a lot more money off of a short-term rental than they would off of a long-term rental. There are also other advantages that they see. We've had some members of the Planning Commission that when the short-term rental issue came up, they felt that they had an experience with tenants that had moved in there and stayed in there for a couple of years and totally trashed the property. And they said, you know, we would much rather have people come in, stay a week, so that we can get back in there and check our property after a week rather than have people move in and us not know what was going on in there. But short-term rental is not going away. I mean, it's all over the world. Everybody's trying to make some money off of their property. But the rules in Biloxi are that short-term rental is not allowed in any property that's zoned single-family residential, period. So if your neighborhood is on single-family residential and you see evidence of people changing out next door at the property next door, whatever, you see car tags from other states or whatever, those are usually signs that somebody is doing that. If you'll call us and let us know, we have an inspector that his primary function is to check on short-term rentals and make sure that they're licensed for wherever they're located. Now, in multifamily residential zoning, it's allowed as a conditional use. Now, not in RM10, which is low density, but in RM20 and RM30, it's allowed as a conditional use. What does that mean? That means that we believe that there are some properties where it would be appropriate and some properties that are zoned that way where it would not be appropriate. And the reason I bring that up is because that means that anybody that comes in that wants to do short-term rental in RM20 or RM30 has to go to the Planning Commission and the City Council so that they can look at it on a case-by-case basis and look at a number of things like what are the uses around that property and whatever. So that it creates a safeguard for the multifamily zonings. Now, with the properties, the commercial zone properties where hotels are already allowed, then short-term rental is allowed as a use by right. So it could be that you see a single-family house that's located somewhere, but it happens to be on property that is zoned RB, regional business, for example. Well, that's a zoning that would allow short-term rental as a use by right. So we would probably issue them a permit. Now, they still have to go through all of the safety inspections and everything else. Our department, the fire department, has to go out there and check that property to make sure there are no life safety issues in it before we will issue them a license to operate there. But short-term rental is just one of those things that's very popular right now, and and it's one of these issues that people either love it or they hate it. There's not a lot of middle ground on it, but we're trying to regulate it as best we can under the ordinances that are already in place. So with that, I'll take any other questions. Yes, sir?
What's Biloxi's definition of a residential neighborhood? The first one you mentioned.
Single-family residential? Well, we have 3 or 4 zones that are listed as single family. Agricultural zoning is considered single family, but agricultural is usually undeveloped land. It may have a farm on it or something like that, but it's allowed to only have one house on it. And I should have mentioned this before. The council has voted to allow short-term rental in agricultural zoning as a conditional use, because there were a number of agricultural properties that are located on the river, and it's the water where it's the areas near the water where short-term rental seems to be the most popular. Once you get a block or two away from the water, it's not really an issue. But there were people who lived on the river that had large 2 and 3 acre properties, and they just felt like, hey, why not, and let people take advantage of the river up here. So it is a conditional use. It'll be looked at on a case-by-case basis. But the single-family zonings that we have are RS5, RS7.5, and RS10. And the RS means residential single-family, and the number means how many square feet is required for each lot if you were going to design a subdivision. So all of those are considered single-family and would not allow short-term rental.
Is a mother-in-law suite that's attached to the house still considered single-family?
It is, yes, sir. And the reason for that is because there are a number of guest cottages, mother-in-law suites, whatever you want to call it, but the requirement for those is that they cannot have a separate meter, separate utilities. They have to run off of the utilities of the main house. So they could not be rented for short-term rental, only long-term rental. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Creel. 2 things real quick. One is on matters pertaining to zoning on the city's website, there are a column of links on the left side, column on the right side, and the column on the right. There's a GIS link. I'm trying to remember what GIS stands for, Geographical Information Systems. So you can go there, you have to check a block and you can kind of sort through that, but you can see the zoning for the entire city. Okay. The other thing is I read comments on some of these different applications on the internet. I want to make one thing clear. Some people in the city are under the impression that Mr. Creel determines what businesses come into the city and what don't. That's his job, is to secure and encourage economic development in the city. He doesn't make decisions on what stays, what goes. His job is just to bring it in, bring it to the Planning Commission if that's required as part of the process, and to the City Council for approval if that's part of the process. So don't shoot the messenger. He's doing his job, okay? All right, next on the list, Sherry Bell, Parks and Recreation. Ms. Bell.
Thank you, Paul. And how dare you put Pennzoil Park and Vincent Creel's not here, Natalie. That's his baby, isn't it? I know Pennzoil. Tomorrow they'll be removing the stumps and the old trees and doing some trimming in that area finally. The county voted yesterday to go ahead and assist us with removing the playground equipment. So today I talked to Pelican Playground, so we're trying to get together a date that once we remove it, then they'll start the installation of the new. Paul has asked, I asked for some fitness equipment to go around the track. It is in the bond issue, correct, Paul? That's what we've been told.
That's what the mayor said.
So we'll know on the 20th of September. Improvements to Snyder Center. It was brought to my attention a few weeks ago that the dehumidifier is going out in the pool. And what that means is the air quality. That's why you see the doors open in the pool. That's why you see some of the rust that's been blowing out of the air into the pool. We've been promised that that's going to be in the bond issue also, as well as improvements to the dressing room. The tiles flooring is coming up. We're having water issues in the showers and all too, so we've asked for that. We've asked for the windows to be fixed. I don't know if you've noticed the leaks that's in the walls, and then we've asked for everything to be painted inside. This weekend, I know we're going to be pressure washing the outside of the Snyder Center. So, let's see what else. On the senior programs, I've left some calendars over here of what we're doing with seniors. We also work with the East Biloxi Senior Center, which is the old Harrison County license place where you used to go get your license on Bayview and Parker. So we do a lot there with them as far as crafts and ceramics and all. But we also do field trips. But if you look, we also have a rock and roll event coming up on September 30th here at Snyder. I've also brought some extra Sports Hall of Fame books that we just had our Sports Hall of Fame. 28 inductees went in for 2020, 2021, and 2022 because of COVID. It was a great event. I don't know if you were able to come, but it was an awesome event. So, and then you wanted me to speak about the staffing challenges. I know some of you use the pool, and on Thursdays we're only open till 6 to 8 instead of 6 to 12. It's because of the lack of lifeguards. It's a national thing with lifeguards. People just are not applying for lifeguard positions. We're getting ready to certify a few people on Saturday, so that's going to bring us back to where we need to be. And then excuse me, the Thursday hours will go back 6 to 12. Now, I know you've noticed some of the grass is high in areas and all. On a good day, I have 5 people. That's if they don't call in. I have 3 that we've just certified, so all 3 will be on board next week. I still have 3 more positions that we're looking at hiring people. They apply, they don't pass the backgrounds. So just bear with us, we're getting there. You know, I have 45 facilities, ballparks, and parks to cut, weed eat, edge, and then I also got to set up Civic Center, clean Civic Center, set up, you know, the other facilities and all. So all that falls into Parks and Rec. So, yeah, yes, sir.
Any luck on securing financing for the water fountain for the Old McMahon's Park?
Buying money.
All right, and go ahead and finish with that, and I'll talk.
Yep, buying money.
Any other questions?
Any other?
The tennis courts over there in Hill Park, I mean,
You ain't-
the fence around the whole playground, can we look into see if, I don't know, whatever the budget supplies, but they need a fence, because if you got a small child, it takes off the road.
At Hiller Park?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that's all stuff I've asked for.
But ain't got it. Okay,
Well, no, Hiller Park, if there's one thing that I want that tennis court either gone or made pickleball courts. Tom, I don't want to hear it. My pickleball guy over there. Or half and half. So I've asked for all that as far as improvements to Pops Ferry, Hiller Park, and H.A. Holloway Sports Complex. Those are the 3 most used parks in the city. So they need a lot of improvements. So, hey, help, whatever, get with your council people. I'm all for it. I've actually felt lucky because this year I'm getting 4 playgrounds redone and a fitness park redone. And this year I've asked for 3 playgrounds and then the fitness at Pennzoil. So I feel lucky.
Well, I don't like going to Hill Park with kids because it takes all my time to get you.
Yep,
It's sad.
I agree. Any other questions? Thank you. I gotta go get my special needs son.
Russell, answer to your question, and when I was speaking with the mayor, I just pointed out that at Pennzoil Park, we need to run a water line out there for a water fountain and have a spigot on it for pets, for people who walk pets. You had mentioned that to me. And I'm thinking that's something that could be done in-house, I believe, or a contractor could do it. It's just,
I mean, there's got to be water, a man
right,
there on Church.
it's just close enough to run a line out there.
It can be done in-house.
Right,
It's a soccer ring for the.
Public Works could do that, and it's like, my only concern is with any public facility is on the weekends or in the evening, particularly in the summer, older kids get out there, you know.
I think the issue with
But-
the water fountain would probably be winterization, you know, keeping it from busting or whatever.
Yeah, just get something that's durable, and it may cost you $1,000 for more, but it's,
They're not cheap.
no, they're not.
$2,000.
I sent you that one, similar they have on
Yeah.
the
Right.
car.
I was looking at one, something like that, they ran anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000.
That was before.
But it's, having done the school thing in a previous life, I just tell you, kids, just the wear and tear, normal wear and tear with kids. You get something that's going to hold up over time. I skipped Public Works. Mr. Allen's not here, but there are two things under there. Street sweeping. Some folks had questions about street sweeping. The city budgeted, the past couple of years, it budgeted $25,000 a year to work with a contractor. Can't remember the name of the contractor. And they go out and they sweep certain roads on a regular basis. Pass Road, Highway 90, Beauvoir Road, whatever. And we were told several years ago as council members, well, if you have some roads you'd like included, we'll kind of slip them in the schedule every once in a while. So I don't know, anybody here from Edgewater Park? Right. So they swept it one year. That might have been 3 years. You get one time, 1 year. Maybe they swept it twice in 3 years. I'm not sure. Y'all would know more than I would know. Right. So about every 6 months, if not every 4 months, I send an email saying, please add, I have all my neighborhoods, all the streets listed. I just copy it and send it in. This year, I was able to have another $25,000 in this new budget year so that we have twice as much money. And I'm going to push to have particularly some of these neighborhoods, a couple of things. One, the streets have to have curbs or the street sweeping equipment isn't effective. So when you get out to Edgewater Estates, you don't have curbs around part of your roads out there. You do for most, but some roads don't. I'm thinking of Lakeview at the north end. So, you know, how effective is street sweeping? I can't tell you. But in Edgewater Park, the Enclave, Edgewater Estates, wherever it's possible, those are heavily treed neighborhoods, and you got a lot of oak trees, and they clog the drains, and then you have to vacuum the drains. So if everything is done properly, that's the key, then everything works like it's supposed to. The problem is, and Ms. Bell mentioned challenges. In Public Works, I asked the Public Work Director about 3 weeks ago. He's a good guy, Mr. Allen. If nothing else, he knows water and the infrastructure. I said, how many people do you have mowing grass, just mowing grass? He said, in a good year, if we were fully staffed, we'd have about, in the summer, about 20 people mowing grass. And about 12 of those would be north of the bay, and 8 would be south of the bay. I said, so how many do you have mowing grass? He said, in a perfect year. He said, right now we have 12. And he said, about 8 of those are north of the bay, and you have 4 over here. So it particularly irks me if any of you have gotten a notice from code enforcement that says, hey, your grass hadn't been mowed. I'm thinking, I went and I looked, and I'm not knocking community development, but their grass was as high as some. So the point is, the city's short on staff. Right now, they're anywhere between 85 and 100 vacancies. And a lot of those are in Public Works for that kind of work, and people take those jobs, get a check or two, and then leave for something else. So those are the challenges that those departments face. But I just want to let you know about the street sweeping, working on that. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned street sweeping. Is there a place online where people can look to see what that schedule is?
Why, thank you, Cecilia. If you don't know Cecilia Dobbs Walton, she is the new public affairs person, contact for the city of Biloxi, and her trusty assistant, Robin to her Batwoman, John Major is there. You can go to the city's website, and if you look on the city's website, there's a blue band about, I don't know, 1/4 of the way down, and there's several links, and one says traffic. And if you click on traffic, it'll give you all what's closed, what's open. If you scroll to the bottom, at the first of each month, they list the roads and the approximate date those roads are going to be swept. Or, if you check your e-blast, I always put a link there. You just click on that link and it takes you right there. Okay, so anything about Public Works? Joe?
Well, the only thing is some neighbors don't like to cut the grass or don't like to clean up the curb or anything. And it just leaves there forever. So
Right, and I think if you're homeowner and you're mowing your grass and all that other, if you're a good neighbor, you blow it out of the street. You don't blow it down the drain, you blow it back up in your yard, or you rake it up and collect it. But contractors, correct me if I'm wrong, because Mr. Creel's over code enforcement too. But contractors, if they're mowing those yards, they have to collect it or blow it back up in the yards. They can't blow it out in the roads. And if that's the case, if you want to snap a picture of that contractor's truck, if they're doing that, and send it to Mr. Creel, he's got something to go on, at least go speak with them about it. But yeah, you know, in a perfect world, and it's not perfect, but in a perfect world, we all do our part and everybody benefits. You know, that's the way it works, but we have to do our part. All right, that brings us to Mr. Walt Rohde. And let me tell you about Mr. Rohde. Mr. Rohde's an engineer, and he represents the city when the city deals with FEMA, with all this Katrina infrastructure. And Katrina was how long ago? 17. And I think, Walt, you've been with the city now about 14 or 15?
2016.
Yeah, some weeks it seems like... Sometimes a week seems like a year to Mr. Rohde. You can imagine the calls he gets. But I will tell you this, in having worked with FEMA and disasters in a previous career, he's very good at what he does. He does a good job representing the city and our interests, and he holds FEMA's feet to the fire and works with the companies that get these contracts to do the repair or replacement work. Mr. Rohde. And really, I have him here just for one item, projects BEA 1, 2, and 3, and he'll explain what that is because part of that's in our ward. So.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, everybody, for attending tonight. As Councilman Tisdale just stated, the project that's currently in his ward is the project we refer to as BEA 1, 2, and 3. That's Beauvoir 1, 2, 3. That is a combination of 3 project areas, and it goes from DeBees Road out to our west, all the way to Veterans Avenue, and it's primarily along Highway 90 within the MDOT right-of-way. Our contractor started construction on July 11th of this year. It's a 1,080 calendar days, which is roughly about 36 months. It's a $32 million contract. It replaces water, sewer, and drainage and shifts them out away from our highway and a little bit north of the highway, so we get the repairs to our water, sewer, and drainage, and also allows for future contracts. If we ever have to do maintenance, we're not having to interfere with the highway. Currently, as far as actual construction, the contractor's completed about $1.23 million. It's a $32 million contract, as I mentioned. They just finished, actually this morning, they finished a horizontal directional drill underneath the Jeff Davis property. It's about 2,000 linear feet between Beauvoir and Brady. That's for a new water main. That project, they'll pull through a new water main so that we have a good protection along water and looping around the Beauvoir property. Even though the limits of the project are close to Highway 90, the reason why it's such a long contract, it's 36 months, is because we have very deep sewer on all of our Katrina projects. And the reason for that is after Hurricane Katrina, we lost a lot of our lift stations and pump stations. They flooded, they damaged the control panels due to the water infiltration. We had a lot of cracked sewer pipes and drainage, things of that nature. So during the design, it was decided that if we ever have another Katrina event, we don't want to be without sewer systems and for such a lengthy time due to these pump stations unable to pump. So the design, for the most part, for everywhere affected by Hurricane Katrina is to go to gravity systems where we can. So we're reducing the number of pump stations where we can. This will cut down on maintenance, on future maintenance. It will allow for gravity systems, and in theory, and hopefully we'll never have to test it in actual conditions. If we ever have another Katrina-like event or Hurricane Camille event, we will always have gravity flow sewer systems to cut down on some of the issues we found right after Hurricane Katrina. As Paul said, I am here to discuss the project in his ward, BA 1, 2, and 3. I am open to other questions regarding the program if you wish. And it's so early in the project, I feel at the next ward meeting, I'm sure I'll have a lot more questions, but or complaints. But does anyone have any specifics? Yes, sir. Depends on what side of the project you are. Some are going down to the Beauvoir. The pump station by the Coliseum is being refurbished, so a lot of it's going to go from the B's towards the Coliseum, Beauvoir Road, and it'll pump up towards the wastewater treatment plant. We have some that goes towards Edgewater Mall, which has another pump station. Those two are the ones that are going to be refurbished. And then we have another one which gravity flows over by the Ocean Club Drive, and that'll go to an H2A pump station, which the city maintains, but it wasn't there prior to Katrina. Yes, sir. Everything runs north to the wastewater treatment plant just near Atkinson Road. And then the tree there. Yes, sir.
How long does that treatment plant usually have its life? I mean, it can't last forever, especially with all this new development you're talking about. We have back where I'm from, we have a waste treatment plant. And it's been for like almost 40 years. They haven't been able to solve the problem because they can't make it any bigger. The water overflows and goes down the Susquehanna River. And how long can this thing last?
Well, as far as how long it will last is a good question. I do not know the answer to that. What we find over the decades in the history of civil engineering and sewer treatment is through technology, engineering and scientists, they always come up with ways to better treat the sewer. And now you've got 3 levels of treatment at least. They'll probably come with up to 4, from chemicals to reverse osmosis to radiation, things of that nature to treat. So it's, as long as the facilities can be upgraded, the city should be in pretty good shape.
Sometimes, like, at the nursing home down there,
Yes, sir.
you know it exists.
Yes, sir.
There's been an ongoing thing since I was here in 2004. Eventually, it's going to happen. And what will happen if that thing decides once it's not working?
Well, it's, we're getting near cruising the coast, and we've got some 40, 50, 60, 80-year-old cars still on the street. It's really about maintenance. If the people want to put the money into it, it can work.
So you don't see any future will happen with the facilities. I've never even seen it, so.
Yes, sir. They hide it pretty well off of Atkinson for obvious reasons, but it's anything else. It's maintenance. As long as people keep up with the maintenance and keep up with the new technologies that are out there, it should provide us a long life.
So a little city like this, like Biloxi, can maintain theirs.
Oh, Biloxi, as the mayor says, Biloxi is, we're doing real well with casinos and development, and Mr. Creel mentioned some of those coming in. We're in pretty good shape compared to the rest of a lot of people. No, sir, we're in great shape as far as the city, as far as our funding.
Anything else?
Sir?
There's one down there by the old high school. How many sewer treatment? Is there a treatment plant there by the natatorium? And then there's one, what is that over there?
Not by the natatorium. There's a pump station over there on Chalmers, which pumps up the sewer.
Where we used to go fight at?
Yeah, that was, it's on the corner of one of the Saint Streets. I can't remember which one. Right,
What is that soup?
it's a block east of the old high school. It's on Father Ryan.
Oh,
Now
by
it's used
Father
for
Ryan and
storage.
St. Francis,
I don't think it's
in that
used
area?
for anything anymore, is it?
No, sir, that's an area that Public Works, and I think our Parks and Rec Director, Sherry Belt, it's a part of its storage area and part of its water treatment, I believe, some chemicals that have. There it is, the old waterworks. It looks like an old concrete barracks, like a nuclear.
I just understand, I thought it was just Susan. Is there
No,
one
sir.
in East Biloxi, nothing in East Biloxi now?
As far as
Waste treatment, ain't
Yeah, that one by the old Mercy Cross, right?
the wastewater treatment plants are over there north of Division by the old Mercy Cross.
right? Oh, yeah.
There's the other one just south of Atkinson, and then I believe everything else is north of the bay, if any.
I thought that one over there by the ball, up there on Father Ryan's.
No, sir. No, sir. Well, I'm sure the next board meeting we'll have some more interesting things to talk about, but thank y'all.
Question.
Thank you, Walt. Yeah, Bill?
Okay, came up. About 3 months ago, all street lights fixtures were replaced. And there's a device on top of all the fixtures. I'm just curious, is that a camera or do you know?
I don't know. It's either a photoelectric cell, I'm thinking maybe, but part of the network, as I recall, when they put these lights in, is that the technology is such that Mississippi Power could track which lights are out. So I don't know if that has to do with that. But they're not cameras. They might be Santa's helpers to see who's naughty and nice, but I don't think they're cameras. I think probably photoelectric or something geared to reporting signals as to whether the light's functioning or not. Okay, thank you all. Next is the police department. Chief Miller's not here tonight, but you're in for a real treat. We are in for a real treat, right? I don't keep up with the ranks. This is Mr. Brumley. He's a really good guy. Is it Major?
It is.
Lucky guess.
Thanks, sir. Thank you all. Captain Moran, let it be known this guy has found your cameras. We're going to change those out. No. So I'm Michael Brumley. I'm a major of operations at the police department, and we are excited once again to be here. This is, a regular Ward 5 meeting. This is probably the third or fourth one I've been at since we've been upstairs as well. So I see a lot of familiar faces, and that's always a good thing. I've got 3 things that are listed on the agenda, I suppose, and there will, of course, just like everybody else, if there's questions, please interject, and we'll address them the best that we can in the allotted time that we have. So we're supposed to have a small car show sometime in October. That's first. There might be some congestion on the road. And, if you notice something's going on, it's called Cruising the Coast. So if you have any questions about that, no, we'll move on. Now, y'all know the car show, the Cruising the Coast has grown exponentially through the years. I remember when it was just a busy weekend for us with a few cars out. And now we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago at City Hall, and it was kind of the kickoff meeting. And once again, their pre-registration numbers were just incredible. They had pre-registered more than 8,000 cars a couple of weeks ago. And they kind of closed that registration down and then start registration again during the event, which is at Centennial Plaza, and that's where they go. And they'll have thousands of more register on scene. And something I found really interesting is one of the numbers that they threw at us was, so far, there's 43 different states represented, at least one from Canada, and one from England, who is bringing over a classic English car they call a Thunderbird. So, that was a joke. So how the English guy ended up with a Thunderbird, we don't know. But anyway, that just shows you the reach that Cruising the Coast has. And I'm not here to talk about the financial impact and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to tell you something that you already know. It is going to be an uncomfortable event, trying to get in the event area. And by the event area, we used to say, from the St. Streets to DeBees Road. And it got to be where now we have to kind of say, from the Biloxi Ocean Springs Bay Bridge to the Gulfport city limit on DeBees. Because as GPS things have improved in mappings, and there's no such thing as back roads anymore, which any of you who lived here for a long time used to be able to cut up the Father Ryan, Irish Hill, right, get around traffic. Well, now Waze and all those map things send those people the same way. So you can only fit so many cars on a roadway without coming to a stop. We have a plan. We have a traffic plan that we institute for every major event that has phases in it. And yes, once again, you will see cones being put out in the middle of the highway. And I know that's an inconvenience sometimes, because even though the cones are on the center line, sometimes it just makes it feel like those lanes are more narrow than they are, as evidenced by the amount of cones that we pick up all during the week before the actual weekend. But bear with us on that, because when we need to institute lane crossover closures, or worst case scenario, one lane 90, which is something that is truly last resort, we can't do it if we don't already have those cones out there, because our public works trucks cannot get through that same traffic to drop off cones if we don't have them. So we continue to work with the areas, all the residential areas that are in the affected event zone. We know it's always a concern. We know the traffic in your areas increased greatly with people trying to park, and people just lose their mind sometimes. They think they just pull up in your front yard and park. We want you to continue to call us for things like that. We will address those as we can get there. So we try not to tow a lot of cars. We try to be a welcoming community. And honestly, the cruisers are rarely ever the problem. Usually it's just the traffic that's more local. Louisiana coast to Alabama to here, that just kind of pours a lot into the Friday night, Saturday night main problems as far as what we're talking about right now with West Biloxi. But the block party starts for us on the Wednesday of cruising, the week of this pretty much the 2nd through the 9th. That Wednesday is the block party. We're going to have the same traffic plan in place where we're going to park cars. We're running out of real estate with increased development, which is good, and construction, which is good. They have consumed a lot of these larger parking areas that we typically use as well. And you'll notice it from the Schuler lot to the area by the Coliseum and so forth. There's all these lots in East Biloxi for the block party. The old, was it D Chevrolet? Was it D? The old D Chevrolet area. When all that's developed, you lose those extra parking lots for the cars. So it becomes more of an inconvenience with them being parked on the roadways, and kind of requires us to close more roads. So it is absolutely a great show. It is a huge boon for the coast. It's a headache for us, but we do the best that we can. So, question?
How early are the cones going out? I mean, does this become a weekend bookend?
Typically, we try and have them out in an early morning hour, like a 3 or 4 o'clock thing, after the block party. We usually don't want to put them up Monday, Tuesday, and honestly, that's hugely dependent upon the amount of volume of increased traffic that we see. We like to not have to put them up till that Thursday-ish, but if we see a huge flow of traffic and all the motels and hotels are full, we may have to strike while we can and get those cones put out. Yeah, and whenever they pretty much have to just stop registering cars because they're either, out of slips or out of stickers, I don't know. They have a certain amount that they pre-register in a certain period of time, and the last couple of years has just been record-breaking. And I think it's the nation's largest car show now, so it's a huge draw for us. Right, yeah, and that's just the classic cars, right? You have to qualify to be a classic car. The traffic on Highway 90 and the arteries, very seldom is it true registered cruisers on your problematic nights, your Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, even into Sunday midday, depending on the weather and depending on hotel checkouts. It's not those cars. Some of them are leaving by then, or they're parked because they've got a very expensive paint job and they don't want to take a chance of it getting scratched. Don't blame them. Yes, sir.
How are you going to handle the burnouts?
Okay, so.
And also the air horns.
Right.
The
Well, I would like to say we're going to give everybody a citation. But if we can't get to them, because we have to drive in the same traffic that you do, it's very difficult sometimes. And that'll keep kind of into the staffing thing here in a minute as well. Whether it be Mardi Gras or whether it be cruising the coast, we do not allow for an exemption of laws and ordinances of the state and the city. So, but it's cruising. Well, congratulations, here's your court date. But we want to try and discourage that ahead of time with some good public affairs announcements, some good advertising. We usually throw out a list of common ordinances and violations, and we tell people, this, and this is the rules, please adhere to it. It keeps an honest person honest. But there's going to be the burnouts. There's going to be the 4 o'clock Friday night in the morning, traffic that we just try and get to. I don't have the numbers of the overall citations we wrote last year at cruising. Captain Moran may remember, he compiled them. But if there's a car 10 cars ahead of you and you're driving a car and there's those 10 cars between you with nowhere to go because the roads are solid, it's very difficult to get to them. So we try and rely a lot on, hey, officer up the next post, look out for this car. So not making excuses. We just can't do it sometimes. As badly as it hurts the officer who wants to give a citation for that. And you don't want to penalize people and dissuade them and make them think that this is an unkind area. But if they're not respecting the communities, the residents, the need for the continued traffic flow east-west, then we will intervene and do what we can to help you. Horns included. That's a noise violation.
What time would y'all be putting up barricades at night, specifically at your park?
There's no way to, you mean the crossover barricades or?
Into the neighborhood.
There's no way for me to put a clock on that just yet, because just like the crossover closures between the lanes of Highway 90, when we sage those, we decide to turn flashing mode on the traffic lights. That is purely driven by the volume of vehicles that are on the road in relation to the available space for those vehicles on the same roadway. And your Councilman Tisdale, we're trying to get his key fob deactivated at the PD, because every time we turn around, he's up there, wanting to look for ways to help us. No, really, it's appreciated greatly. But your councilman is up there discussing, trying to get plans for the communities, for the residential areas, to work with it as much as we can. It's difficult for us to just call a roadway closed. That has to come from the office of the mayor. So I can't just close Lakeview. I can't close Eisenhower. Now, if it closes itself because the traffic congestion is so bad and we have to get out and intervene, I'm not talking about crash or anything. I'm talking about just as a preventive measure. So that kind of presents hazard or difficulties in that, but it's only driven by the call right then, what's going on, what we're dealing with, and when we can get that done.
Paul, are you going to be next distributing passes?
I can't recall if I did it last year for cruising the coast. I know I do it for spring break. I think I do it for cruising as well. I'll keep doing whatever I've been doing. And does everybody know what Joe is talking about? Little dashboard thing. I call them a neighborhood pass. And if you don't live in my ward, you call me and you want one because you think it gets you through the traffic that he just told you can't get through. So they want a pass. But it's for folks like you in my ward who live there, and all it does is just prove to an officer, if you're trying to get in this neighborhood, that you live there. That's all. That's the only thing it does for you. It just identifies you as a resident of that neighborhood that you're trying to get to. So if I've done it in the past, I'll continue to do it.
So it's worth mentioning in relation to that is we tell all of our people when these events are going on that if somebody's trying to get home or somebody's trying to get to work, we're going to try and get you across and over. Now, I say that to say it never fails that you pull up to a crosswalk and you're trying to get that officer but I'm trying to get on that street right over there. I got to get there, right? And they say, you got to go. I apologize in advance. I hope that does not happen again. However, that officer has probably been standing there telling 5,000 people for the last 10 hours that they need to keep moving or whatever. But I promise we will continue to try, whether it's a Mardi Gras parade or whether it's cruising, we will get you across to your streets. Now, if we know we have this intersection crossover blocked, but we know for a fact 2 crossovers over remains unblocked for a reason to allow those U-turns or changes from eastbound to westbound, we may send you there if it's close. And we're not going to make you hold your ID up and smile with your picture to prove that you live on an address. Tell me I live at this street, and they're going to be told to let you across to the best of their ability. But bear with them. It's a long weekend that now starts for us the Sunday before and goes all the way through the Sunday of conclusion. So, any further on that? Okay. So, homeless challenges. This probably will be more of a question and answer session. We'll let you know that we know there has been an issue with homelessness. Homelessness, as Chief Miller will tell people, homelessness itself is not a police problem because it's not illegal to be homeless, but the crimes and the problems that are brought forth by those who may be homeless are what we try and work towards a solution. We've expanded that quite a bit. We actually have 2 3-person teams who work 7 days a week, one's on, one's off, to include a booking officer handling the processing and custody paperwork, trying to get them over to the county jail, things like that, dealing with, and I don't want it to say like I'm saying dealing with homelessness. We're dealing with the businesses who are calling and complaining about homeless people who have set up on their back property and they're trespassing. We're dealing with people who are squatting in vacant houses who have set up makeshift plumbing of garden hoses in vacant houses from East Biloxi to behind the old Winn-Dixie that we talked about maybe getting into a grocery store. We have worked very closely with Mr. Creel and his code enforcement department who have been invaluable to us about getting these property owners contacted to get them in compliance, to do trespass letters so that we can make arrests if possible. My guys that are working on that team even found a shelter in Mobile that offers services that for a little while we were unable to get for some of the people here. And if the people requested it, then we were actually taking them to that facility in Mobile because they had job assistance, long-term housing assistance. But then we kind of got back with your local groups, Back Bay Mission, Open Doors Coalition, and I'll probably leaving a ton of them out, and that was not by intent, who work with us as well as the Mental Health Association. I don't think it'll be a surprise to anybody to know that there's a great deal of mental illness amongst the homeless population, and dealing with that is it's a sociological issue, and it's not an arrest isn't going to fix it. Now, if somebody's in your front yard or banging on your door or harassing you or aggressively panhandling to where you feel like they're going to reach in your pocket, that is absolutely what we're for, and we will respond and we will handle that. So it's a known problem. It's unfortunate. We are working to the best we can, but that's what I have on that. Is there anything on that? All right. And the last thing.
Question.
Yes, sir.
If somebody should have any questions or suspicions about
Just something I've noticed on Facebook a lot. I'm looking at Terry, and he is the most photographed man on a home camera in his neighborhood by people who don't know who he is. So on Facebook, they say, this guy was stalking through my neighborhood at 8 o'clock at night. Who is he? Well, he's your neighbor, Terry. But I see a lot of traffic on that with these, either people knocking at my door at 2 in the morning or somebody's going through my mailboxes. That's kind of, that's not Terry. No, that's not Terry. But I just want to say, if you have a situation like that, by all means, call the police. That's what they're there for. I know Chief Miller would tell you if he was here, we would rather you call us and it turned out to be nothing, then not call us and it was something. So I just wanted to jump in and say that.
Absolutely, thank you. So we have people who are trained, they go to a 40-hour course called crisis intervention training that they learn to identify and somewhat mitigate some of the mental health issues. They're far from clinicians, but they receive some advanced training in getting people in. So if you do have people that you notice in the streets that or have obvious issues with that, even if it's not a 911 call, if it's not an emergency, that's okay too. Call us on the non-emergency line. We will have somebody check on them. Sometimes it's just somebody walking the street that somebody doesn't know. I wasn't evaluating mental health at all. And then sometimes it's somebody who just needs some assistance. So it's kind of something that we've kind of transformed the way that we have to think to better deal with situations like that. So we also change. So, staffing challenges. It's no surprise to anyone that nationwide, globally, there's fewer people trying to get into the population of career law enforcement than, I don't know, that I've ever known. I've been here since April of 1997. When I started, we had 154 people. Louis Moran and I started at the same time. Been here ever since. And right now we're running at about 80%. So we have 144 budgeted slots. We're about 116 right now. And the events are getting bigger and bigger, and every month there's more. So the men and women who continue to do the job here in Biloxi are doing an amazing job at providing the services, the response times that are far better than average, more services than you would typically receive from a police department. Our recruitment has increased. Once again, we've changed the way that we've looked at hiring. We used to not have to recruit. People had applications stacked up, by the hundreds trying to come work in the city of Biloxi. So the city, fortunately, in the last couple of years has made it a little more appealing as far as money for the people coming into the profession, which is widely appreciated and much needed, as well as we've started hiring and testing more frequently. We used to test 50, 60 people to hire for 5 or 6 slots, but we might only test once a year because nobody left. We found a little bit of change in that now. So we test almost monthly now. Our city HR was kind enough, along with our civil service department, to kind of change the way that we did things, to look anew with some fresh eyes. So we might test with only 8 people who applied. But next month, on the first Monday, we have another test. And next month, we have another test. So we have about 13 people that hired on just this year who are all in different phases of training, which is several months long. But by the end of the year, we should see some value on that investment and some increase in people on the streets that are certified and trained and competent to do the job. So we're getting there. It is a battle that everybody's facing. I went to a conference in Ohio and Cleveland the first week of August and spoke about this to a group of law enforcement professionals, and everybody in the nation had the same thing. Can't get people, can't keep people. So to see us going up, we kind of have staunched the blood flow and are kind of recouping now. So we're on the way back up, and it's coming around. So hopefully by the end of this year, the latter part of November, and then into early 2023, we'll be in a little bit better shape, and it's easier to do some of the programs that we want to do. So is there any questions on that? Okay, I think that's it, sir. Councilman, thank you.
Louis, I don't know if you wanted to say anything or not. If some of you, and we've mentioned it in previous ward meetings, if you have a camera system or you're thinking about installing a camera system at your house and you'd like to be tied into the city's network, you just can't buy any camera to do that, but Captain Moran here is the guy to see. So if you're looking at that, something that you could tie in to the city's network so that if something occurs, they can flip a switch and be looking at from a number of different perspectives in the city.
Companies that you have deal with, like I just had a vending system.
Yeah. He could answer any of your questions. Yeah, he could answer any of your questions. Me, my wife does cameras. I don't do cameras. I'm sorry, she just does. I don't see anybody from the fire department here, but Station 5 is the Bay Vista Fire Station here almost across the street. It is probably, at times, it's probably the busiest fire station. And the other fire station that's busy is the one downtown at the Public Safety Building. But we're going to redesign that station. It's going to be rehabbed. It needs to be larger. It needs to be more accommodating. They need a little more space there. Hopefully the design and the planning will be done this year and the following year, in fiscal year 24. They'll begin the renovations there. By the way, if you want to donate water for the citizens of Jackson, any bottled water, you can just drop it off at any fire station. The one closest to you is right there across the street. Just a couple of things to point out before we close for the night. At the bottom of your agenda, I always put the citizen's representative. I think that's what they call him. His name is Craig Ross. He works for the city. He's located in the Public Works building. But if I come by, you see, by the way, I don't drive my Jeep anymore. I have a black truck. Jeeps were too expensive when mine had too many miles on it, so I got a truck. So when I appear on your camera, if it's not Terry and it's in a black truck, it's me. But having said that, I go around, I take pictures, and I send them to Craig Ross. So if there's a water leak or a sinkhole that opens in your backyard one day, or in your street as it did, where on Lakeview, I think it was. Yeah, one morning, literally, you could call Craig. He'll direct you to the right spot. He'll take the information. He'll get back to you. I send all the pictures to him. So he's the go-to guy for the city, sort of like an intake person. So anything you send to him, he routes it to the right person, and he tracks it. And if it's such an issue, you may ask for a tracking number because he logs it all. So in 3 weeks or 2 weeks, what's going on? You can call him, give him that tracking number, and he'll let you know what the status is. One more mile. We're working on it. We're working on it. We're working on it. Let's see. The other thing is, how many of you get my Ward 5 e-blast? Okay. And if you got it but didn't get it for a week or two, check your spam folder on your computer. Somebody asked me earlier. They said, I got it the week before and didn't get it the week before that. But I try and put everything really at your fingertips there. And I hadn't changed the format because that means I have to do additional work, and I like the way it looks now. Our next ward meeting, we look at typically a second one. Usually it's around March, end of February, March, somewhere about 4 or 5 weeks before spring break. That being said, the only other thing I want to point out is a reminder that your water bill will go up a tad. I can't say how much a tad or a smidge is, but I put an example on my website so you can go and look at the rates, how they've progressed over the past 3 or 4 years. And I use an example of 5,000 gallons. If you go to my website, Tisdale 4 Biloxi, one word, right column says water and sewer rates. Hit that link. I just updated it today. It'll give you an example and show you the new rates. Okay? Any other questions for the good of you? Mr. Silbernagel.
Last ward meeting, we had a semi-good discussion about the cut-through of the Bay Vista subdivision.
Yep.
For people avoiding that red light. You talked about speed bumps, speed tables, maybe adding more stop signs. Did that go anywhere, or did that get blown out of the water?
No, there's a, let me see if I can find it. I thought somebody might ask that question. I thought somebody might ask that question. So what I did, because following this ward meeting, following this ward meeting, in the next few days, I'll post a link to the video, and the sound works on this. It's not like a council meeting. The mayor's working on that, on the council meetings. But I will post a link to the video and a written summary of what we talked about here tonight. But in there, in the last ward meeting, I think it was, here's the process. I'll read it to you. The city assumes some liability when speed bumps are installed. Speed bump and speed limit requests are reviewed by a traffic engineer. Based on the traffic engineer's opinion, the city's traffic committee determines the locations of those speed bumps. So here's the process that you follow. Petition for a speed bump or speed limits from the neighborhood are sent to me. So what you want to do, if you want them on Rich Avenue, say, somebody needs to walk a petition up and down Rich Avenue. Either you want these speed bumps or you don't. The police department's going to look at, do you have at least half of those people that say, yeah, we want speed bumps? If you can't get half the people on the road to say, yeah, I want speed bumps, it's not going anywhere, okay? But if you get that petition and you meet that requirement, you get that petition to me, I take it to the police department, they conduct a traffic study, and the traffic committee, which is comprised of the police chief and a couple of other folks, Mr. Creel may know, they determine whether or not speed bumps will be approved. To date, I had one petition from, I think it was Briarfield, but they didn't have enough of the homeowners on Pine Grove Avenue that said, yeah, we'd like speed bumps. So that's the deal. At least half the folks on that road, if they say, yeah, we'd like speed bumps here, then the city will look at it, make a determination, and they will determine, the city will determine where the speed bumps are going to be placed. Go, Charlie.
Yeah,